In this segment, we will talk about the travel guide mobile app prototype and dig into that a little deeper. So, in addition to the travel website, you will be developing a travel guide mobile app prototype, and we'll talk a little bit more too about the differences in the function of those items. So, again, thinking about your users, they're most likely that this app is going to be used shortly prior to the trip and or during the trip as a resource for the travelers while they are visiting your location and area. So think about, what is the main function of the app? Is it a little bit more of just a pocket travel guide where you can curate things? Maybe it's more specifically like a restaurant guide or a family friendly tourism guide. It can be a little bit more specific, or you can choose to focus on a certain feature of the app in your prototype. So, what is the onboarding process? Like, how do they get into the app? Are they able just to get in, or can they log on and create a user account? Can they save locations, customize? Um, can they look at trip sites? Can they plan their itinerary in the app? Maybe they can book and plan things, and for the day, we have a full schedule and it's that digital itinerary. Maybe if they have tickets to things, those are downloaded in the app. So, everything is in the app. And as they travel, they just have that one resource that they use and they get out of their pocket, they scan their ticket to the museum or whatever. Like, really think about like how the user can maybe create an account and be able to curate and save things within the app. And then obviously, how does the app make the travel and planning easier? So when you're traveling, when you're at a new location, what are the main things that would be super useful in an app for this location? So thinking about the format, we'll primarily be focused on formatting this for an iPhone. I'll give you specific details on that in your assignment sheets. Again, each screen serves as a category or individual resource, and really think about what is the user's journey through the app. You can map that out through a flowchart, quick flowchart sketches. Maybe if they're trying to do a specific task, what is that journey? Really figure out what that full process is from beginning to end. Think about utilizing consistent and easy to use navigations and buttons throughout. Consider known user gestures and how we are used to interacting with the phone screen and mobile device. So, obviously we have, we're tapping with our thumbs, how we hold our phone. Make sure that you are catering to generalized user interactions and kind of norms currently now in user interactions and how and where we're used to seeing things on a screen to be able to touch and interact with it. And also consider your user interface and color contrast. Use a simple color scheme. Think about using the 2 to 3 colors and their tints and shades and how you apply color. I'll provide some more resources for you for user interface color as well online. I'll add that online for you guys, but some more charts and those type of things. But really think about how and where you apply color and using that as a visual device and to guide and navigate the user. Think about simple typefaces, one type system, good clear visual hierarchy, and think about your icons and compelling photography as well. Again, with the travel, that photography is going to get you a long way. So really think about how and where you apply those visuals and how that makes sense for the user within your mobile app. So taking again the format, thinking about mapping the user's journey. How do they begin? Where do they end up? So for example, here in this picture that you see, this is, whoops, sorry. In this picture that you see, you'll see we've got the screens labeled. We see our splash screen, and then we walk through. We can either log in or we can skip the login, and we have a different walkthrough. So this is what's called the onboarding process. Is how do you get them into the app? Do they have to set up an account? What's that process like? So think it's kind of like one of those charts where it's like, if yes, do this. If no, do that. It's mapping all those different journeys, and so really calculate for that in your app. Like, what is that journey if they're trying to complete X task, right? And you might do a couple different journey maps for each task, depending on what that is. But it's particularly important to map that onboarding process and figure out what is that process of actually getting us into and on and engaged with this mobile application. So next I want to take a look at some examples. This is actually the journey map for, if we jump back here, it's the travel app. And these are just our simplified wireframes that have been digitized. This is the actual version of that, the full robust prototype UI that you're looking at here. So we've got our splash screen, we've got our different walkthroughs, start the journey. So we've got that call to action. Discover places, and then lastly, at the last login is enjoy your vacation. And when you click that, it takes you to your other options. If you look here, we have our login, our registration of our home page. So after you have created an account, when you log in, you see your home page. You've got a home button here, got another little connect icon. You've got your microphone where you can talk to text or talk to search, a little human icon, which would be your profile, your user account, and then we have the gear for settings. So that is our main navigation. We can scroll through the app. We can click around. These little cards slide to give us some more options. And then taking a look at the city listing page. Again, this is an app that's just a travel for like all cities, but think location specific. Like maybe instead of a city listing, this was a attraction listing, or regions, if it's a state, regions of the state, or regions of, if you got a place like Texas, there's a lot of different regions. A lot of different areas. So that could easily be parlayed into something like this. So we've got an image, we've got some nice text here. We also have kind of a nice little overlay over these images that really makes that text pop and gives you that contrast. So again, just taking a look at thinking about, and this is something that I believe XD, and again, we can jump in on that and dive in deeper, or you could just have like a simple prototype static image for it, voice activated, right? Like, thinking about voice activation. If you say a city, place, or name, it can search for that. And then thinking here, like, what does your profile look like? What kind of information is curated under your profile? Cities I've been to, my travel guides, so certain saved and curated experiences for that user. And then if you are exploring a city or an attraction or whatever, thinking about the details, right? Like, what does a details page look like? Here we've got Tokyo, we've got our nice pink orange gradient over the top of the city of Tokyo. We've got the weather today in Tokyo. And then at the bottom, we've got recommendations from users and frequent users. And then in your settings, you just have just the app settings that you can tweak and tailor. Looking at the next one, and you'll notice, especially with travel, photography is going to be key, right? And how and where you work with that. So if we take a look at this screen, and this is kind of similar to what you guys will wind up with your mobile app prototype, because you're only going to have a handful of screens. So really thinking about making those screens super interactive and super engaging. So we've got our onboarding page here where we log in. We can click go. Our tour list. So we've got our user account. I've got my little menu here. I've got the active tour list. So things that I have scheduled or that I could schedule. And if I click on that, so if I click on Santorini, Greece, this takes me to the details page. And then you'll notice over here, this is what the full scroll looks like. So if I scroll down, I'm going to see this information under tour details. Okay. And this actually has got a lovely little timeline for me. That's really nice. And so I'm flying. So I've got the little airplane icon, my accommodations. I've got the little bed icon there. So really this timeline thing is really nice, like showing that full journey of that trip. And then you can add that to your favorites and you can save it, or you can book it. And then we also have a filter screen where we can turn and filter certain criteria that we're looking for. So again, this is a travel app. It's not specific to a location, but you could easily tailor these types of devices and options to a location specific app. So thinking about here, this is one. We've got Rome, we've got Tokyo, and I want you to take a look at. It's a very similar setup on both of these apps, but I want you to take a look at how they've applied the different color schemes. So they're kind of pulling the color schemes, the color story, if you will, from the inspiration imagery of the location. So you'll notice that these colors really coincide with whatever the cover photo is. So I think that's a really nice way to set the mood. We have click to start, or we could easily say, log in or go to whatever. And then the first screen that we see says good morning. Again, always think about a way to have to go back to our main screen, right? We have the good morning. We see what the weather is like in Rome, and then we have options for attractions, food, and translate. So we have a built-in translator for there. We have attractions, and then so if we click attractions, we see this screen. We see the quick little line art icons that all coordinate with the category, and it's a nice little colored grid here. If we click food, it takes us to food, and we have popular, delivery, famous, and then we even have, like, in the translate, it shows us an example of like what that translate screen looks like. So both of these for Tokyo or Rome, those are kind of the same setup. One of the things that I want you to do is, here this has attractions, food, and translate. I would want you to take in your prototype, I would want you to take one of these options one step further. So if we click art, what does that take us to? If we were to click fine dining under the food, like what does that details page look like? So, these are kind of very much on the scratching the surface as far as the usability of the app. I really want another example, like build that out a step further, but really thinking about just a simple grid system, the navigation system, and how you apply color throughout in a way that makes sense and is appropriate. Okay, so again, other considerations, let's see, what was, sorry guys, other considerations, when considering interface design regarding colors, think of graphics and type, think about your location. For example, a tropical location can be fun and vibrant and you use bright colors. A desert or more outdoor rugged location could feature warmer earthy colors, and be sure that the visuals reflect your research and make sense and set the tone for the location and overall travel vibe for your location. Okay, and you guys also have your style tile from your website that you're developing that you can borrow from. So you might be introducing, and probably will be introducing, some slightly different things for the app that aren't specific to the website, but that's okay. But you do have kind of some of your UI stuff that you can bring forward from your website. You might have to really tweak how you work with photography and colors in the mobile app specifically to guide the user, but you kind of already have some of those ingredients. And another thing that this is not in the presentation, but another thing that I wanted to share with you guys is this is actually under Apple's developer tools, and this is thinking about the formatting content. And this is not travel specific, but just thinking about with the UI in general. So when you format your content, create a layout that fits the screen. So do this, it fits the screen, it's formatted properly. Don't do this. This is really scrounged and very much not formatted for this screen. And thinking about touch controls, UI elements that are designed for touch gestures. So again, those touch gestures, those interactions that are natural, that we're used to. Something where we have to click this little small tiny calendar doesn't make sense, but we're very comfortable with the scrolly wheel and how that magnifies the date that we're looking at. Thinking about your hit targets. So anything, you need to hit, or if we're saving or favoriting something in our app that you guys are building. So it recommends, that these things be at least 44 points by 44 points so that you don't accidentally click something else, and that they can accurately be triggered by a finger tap. So keep that in mind. We will prototype a lot on the screen, but keep that in mind that, we need to be able to tap this with our finger. Okay. text size. So text should be at least 11 points so that it's legible and at typical viewing distance without zooming. So again, minimum 11 points. So don't do this because that's hard to read. The one on the left is much larger to read, and we also have a nice hierarchy as well that's guiding us through that. Okay, thinking about contrast, make sure there's ample contrast between the font color and the background. So on the right there, we've got this lime green that is very chaotic and hard to read on that background. And then on the left here, we have something that's very simple, straightforward contrast. Okay, so minimalism is okay. Like you can get by with a minimal interface and it's super easy to use for your user. Spacing, don't let the text overlap. Legibility, your line height, your kerning, tracking, and lettering, those basic type controls. That goes a long way. This is cramped and really hard to read, while this one is, there's breathing room. We can clearly read things. Thinking about resolution, provide high resolution version of your image assets. That images that are not at 2x or 3x will appear blurry on a Retina display, which, Retina display on phones, that's something that, again, you have to be mindful of, and you don't know someone can have an iPhone 7, someone can have an iPhone 11. It needs to look good on all screens. So really thinking about your resolution, those good, crisp, clear images. And distortion, always display images at their intended aspect ratio. So don't distort or scale images weirdly. Again, make sure that you've sized your images appropriately before you bring them into XD to use. Again, about this guy over here. This looks really good. This, not so much. And continuing on, organization, create an easy to read layout that puts controls close to the content that they modify. So if I'm saving something, if I'm doing settings, if I want to modify something with the coffee, I know edit, right? I can go directly into those metrics. So just really adding the content where it makes sense. Alignment, align text, image, and buttons to show users how information is related. So like to the right there, this doesn't really make any sense. And here I have an image. I have left aligned information with the header and body copy, and I have see recipe, right? Like that clearly goes down the line and it makes sense, and it's clear and easy to follow. Okay, so again, there's some videos. This is on directly through the Apple website. If you click, if you click to interactivity, talks about formatting content, readability, which so like these little things at the top here, your graphics, go through this little section. And I can post this online for you guys as well. But, this obviously is just simple, basic UI, that super minimal approach, and this is obviously related to the Apple products, but these principles you can easily apply to any other interface. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of the mobile app. Again, we'll dig into the assignment and the assignment sheets together as a group in class, but this is just a quick overall overview of your assignment.